Welcome to the Balanced Virtual Trainer Podcast. My name is Tyler Valencia, and I'm the president of KIPS and Time to Train Fitness and your balance ambassador. We have a topic that I'm excited to chat about with our guest. We have guest Christa Fairbrother on the podcast to talk about water aerobics, Aqua fitness, and we're going to throw in some pieces about online instruction with it that, I haven't had many guests or many encounters, I'll even say, with individuals, fit pros that are well versed in this area. So Christa, first, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Let's kick it off by kind of setting the base, setting the stage. Can you share your business within the health and fitness industry?
Yeah, thanks. I am a water yoga coach and trainer. I work in Gulfport, Florida, which is on the west coast of the peninsula. And there I offer in-person classes, the traditional fitness that people would expect. And then also I teach professionals all around the world to get certified in water yoga, and that I do online. And if you can travel, I occasionally offer the in-person certifications as well.
Yeah, I dig it. And the piece that I want to segue into here, because it was in a different podcast that we did, and we started chatting briefly about the virtual, but also filming by the pool and the elements. And oh my goodness, just how many different pieces that go into it. If you're a guest listening to this, if this is the first time on the as an audience member listening to this, I will tell you that filming outdoors, filming at a pool, indoors, outdoors is a nightmare. It's just a straight nightmare. If you are any type of filmer, you want controlled sets where you control the lights, control the sound, all these elements, but outside, it's all out there. From your perspective, what are some of those difficulties that you've uncovered with filming Aqua content?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So anybody who's filmed outside has struggled with, like you just expressed, the so many uncontrollables. You have the wind that's affecting your sound. You have the lights. So a cloud goes over, you've set everything up to record at a certain color balance or a certain depth. And then you get the cloud, you wait, it's like, sing the Jeopardy song. You have things like I have booked pools. There's apps you can use to book pools, and that people put up photos of their beautiful pool, and then you show up and it's not as good as it was in the picture day that they provided that. So it's like, okay, well, do I go with this? If you're filming in public pools, obviously it's a shared space, right? So there's going to be people in the background, maybe perhaps of your shots. There's obviously the safety barrier with tech. Water and electronics don't mix. So you have to be really careful with just not only just your equipment so that you don't kill it, but yourself, of course. You don't want any kind of accidents. And then it takes a team. So a lot of fitness professionals will work just themselves and the camera and their gear. And while you can do that near the pool, it's going to be so slow. I mean, to get 2 minutes of footage is easily going to take 15 to 20 minutes of shot time because you set it up and then you're not right in the water, or there's some angle and you watch it. And so that's sort of the quick, rundown. Water quality. We haven't mentioned water quality yet. If you're trying to shoot underwater, backyard pools often don't have enough depth. If you're dealing with the saltwater systems, they'll make the water quality a little cloudy. Clearly, I could keep going, but those are some of the big ones. It is a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about those ones. The water quality. I mean, one of the stories I can share right now is just with the times that I've filmed at a pool. I will typically use a shotgun microphone, which is not my favorite. But the second any type of chop, any type of movement starts to occur, that sound is gone. It's not usable. You can't really talk over it. In your experiences, what has been something that's worked with you within maybe social media clips or even content that you're filming for your students? What has been the best kind of approach to that?
Yeah, I solve a lot of problems by just assuming everything's a voiceover. Yeah. So that adds a lot of time in terms of editing. You're not just filming content of you like us talking. There's the whole, you film the content, and then there's all the time in the editing lab doing the voiceovers, doing the cuts. There's also you have to think about, okay, your editing skills, because there's the barrier of the water in terms of just the visual nature of it. And there's a lot of water distortion. Mm-hmm. So if I'm going to show you something from above the water, you're not necessarily going to see what I'm doing under the water. So if I'm really trying to educate you and really help you get clear on that, then I need to show you both. So I'm going to have to do some edits of a move that's above and below water. So I think about that. And then as well as I have it's a very modest backyard pool, but at least it's in my backyard, which means that there's nobody else in the pool. And if it's a quiet enough day in the neighborhood and I can get it without the garbage trucks going by, it's at least a controlled number of background noises, and it's slightly better quality than if I was trying to just do a quick, especially if it's like for a client, it's like, hey, let me help you with this one thing. I can get in the pool and just send you a quick little video, one thing. And that can really help. So those are the three quick ones.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good right there. And I'm sure listeners, and that's one of the things that with editing that I've kind of realized is that some people have no idea where to start, what to use. What is that kind of workflow with you when you go and edit something? What's the software you're using? What's that process kind of look like?
Yeah. So first I try and screen the clips as best I can at the pool. I should say, before editing, there's nothing worse than spending an hour at the pool and then going back to edit. And it turns out nothing is usable. So we haven't kind of mention that. And when I say screening at the pool, that can be sometimes you actually have to take the camera like into the bathroom or the locker room where it's dark enough because it is very hard to see screens in the bright sunshine. And especially the underwater cameras, the screens are very small. So, and I've gotten comfortably middle-aged to wear even glasses. It's like, whoa, that's a tiny little screen. So before I even start with the editing, I tried as best I can to screen at the pool. It's like, okay, or the odds are I think I have what I want. So then when I get into editing, I'll basically upload it into the software. I use something very inexpensive. It's Filmora, Wondershare. Wondershare is the brand, Filmora is the product. It's a Windows product. I don't have Apple. I have used the Adobe Suite materials, but they are more expensive and they're so powerful. They frankly do a whole bunch of things I don't need. I'm not an editor for Hollywood. I don't need to be that good. And so I have used it, but it has so many more tools than one needs. And the expense, is a lot for most people. So I just use that very modest program. So basically when I'm looking to edit is I want the best footage of the move I'm trying to show, basically. So am I thinking, and I'm trying, again, going back to what I did in the pool, you have to have the experience of knowing, well, what is it you want to show? Some moves aren't going to show well from the front. Some moves aren't going to show well from the side. Some you want a 3/4 angle even. So I'm trying to having done this a little while, I try as best I can to speed it up and get the shots right in the beginning. But then sometimes when I get into editing, well, that might be that, hey, I would normally show this from the front, but this stuff I have is only good from the side. So then in my voiceover, I might make it clear, hey, this is going on. This is what you would see from another angle. I can do that in editing. Sometimes I will add in graphics. So sometimes I'll use graphics software to add like an arrow, and that it can be something you can do in the video editing software, or sometimes it is better to do it on the graphic on a still. So I have done both. And then I'll often add in the intros and the outros in the editing software as well.
Nice. And being someone that does use the Adobe Creative Suite, I can tell you that it's powerful, but it's very extensive. And yes. I would still say that I'm still a beginner, even though I've been using it for over 10 years. It's so powerful and there's so many pieces with it. And so do I ever recommend it? Rarely, very rarely do I, just because of that fact. But what was the name again of the software that you use?
It's Filmora. The company is Wondershare, and they're, I believe, a UK firm. Okay. And the nice thing about it is you can buy a lifetime access. So as small business owners, and that's part of the thing with Adobe, it's paying that, monthly or annual fee year after year after year. It really adds up. And so this is one where you can just buy it. You don't necessarily get all the same perks as if you had the monthly, because they produce a lot of, I would say kind of those like ready-made graphics and lots of visuals and text fun things and filters, all those kinds of things. Those you have to pay the monthly plan for. But with what I do, it's already hard enough to see what's going on underwater. I'm not going to throw in a whole bunch of fancy stuff. So I really appreciate that I can just pay that one-time fee and go with it.
Yeah. The piece that I kind of want to point out is actually that it's a Windows-based product, because that's something that with some of the tutorials that I make, that people will right off the bat point, oh, well, you're using an iPhone, oh, you're using an Apple, you're using Mac products, whatever that means. And I will say that I'm not as well versed in Windows products, but to know that this is one that is a big benefit for listeners right now, just to know that here's something that someone's using, it works with their workflow, and they can get what they need to make something look more professional. Boom, benefit right there in my eyes, that you don't have to spend that monthly fee that it is very costly. I pay, I'll just share it right now, it's not like a secret, that I pay about $50 a month for my creative suite, and it does add up, but I use all those items. But someone that just needs something to do some basic editing, make it appear nice, add the clips in, all that kind of stuff, this sounds great, fantastic. So thank you for sharing that piece right there with it. And one of the things that I want to kind of segue into here is with water aerobics, Aqua Fitness. I feel like the first time that you and I podcasted together, and even before we started today, that we brag about water aerobics. We go into like all these things because we know how great it is. We know what this can be for a fit pro, not just a group fitness instructor, but a fit pro adding this into their business. Let's kick it off with, how has water aerobics, aquatics evolved over the last 10 years?
I think there's a lot more awareness of it, despite, you segueing in and saying, oh, it seems to be the best kept secret. There is a lot more awareness of it. And I really credit the organizations for that. So Ruth Sova, who is just a groundbreaker in the field, she's the one who founded the Aquatic Exercise Association and then went on to found the Aquatic Therapy and Rehab Institute. And when she started, there was basically no such thing as head out a water exercise. You swam, and that's what you did. And this was, 30 years ago. So she has really propelled the field forward greatly. And those organizations have also helped really raise the bar of what's offered, so there is that diversity of somebody like me who can offer water yoga. And then there's other professionals who can offer aqua hit and aqua spin and aqua pull. And the field has, since we now have that really great base, there's so many more of us who can go into these little niches within that head out water exercise. And then as well as there's growing awareness in the hospital community of the therapy benefits. So a lot of hospitals are building therapy pools now. And so it's not just the exercise component. I know we're talking so much about the fitness, but water does have that therapeutic aspect, that there's that transition place of, well, sometimes it's people who aren't ready to get back into land-based exercise, and they can rehab in the water before they hit the land again and work with a more traditional fitness professional. So I would say that the quick recap of where that's gone in the last few years. Yeah.
I think this is a good point right here to actually jump into your niche and your specialty with aqua yoga. Can you dive into that with some of the intricacies of it and how it differs from on land yoga?
Yeah. So it's like it sounds, it's just water yoga in terms of you take your yoga practice and you put it in the pool. But what happens is it gets a little different, because for anybody who's been in the pool, you've got to navigate the water, right? So you've got the buoyancy, you've got the hydrostatic pressure. Suddenly you're having to exercise in every direction. It's not just that, oh, I'm lifting weights against gravity and it only is effort to bring things up. It's like effort to move anything in any direction. Mm-hmm. So those are the kind of some water principles we have to deal with, is I would say one of the biggest things that kind of surprises people who have a very active yoga practice maybe. So there's a lot of yoga teachers out there, they can do plank all day, and then they get in the pool and it's like, I can't do a plank in the pool. What's going on? So if you talk about, okay, well, what makes it different? You've got some different muscular engagement that has to happen. being in the water requires you to really get into your core stabilization muscles, and even those little deep ones, the erector spinae on your back and things like that we don't normally talk about from a fitness perspective. We're usually talking about the big muscles. So that's one of the powers of the practice, is being able to activate those core and deep stabilization muscles. But it's also one of our weaknesses in land exercise that we don't get. So you make that transition and you're like, wow, I thought I was actually kind of good at plank, but what am I learning here? And then my joke with my students is it's also, you get in the pool and it's more tush more of the time, right? There is nothing you do in the pool that isn't going to be better with activating more of your glutes, which isn't necessarily true, I would say, as well in land-based exercise. So we've got those aspects. Okay, we got some different muscular engagement. We've also deal with the fact, well, how do we sit down, right? Nobody wants to drown in my classes, right? So we don't have that pool steps that we can use. So seated postures become something that you would use gear for. You can use a kickboard, you could use a noodle, you could use the aquatic dumbbells that are buoyant. Well, okay, suddenly I'm sitting on that. Well, this is not some restful place where I'm going to hang out for 5 minutes and get a lecture in yoga philosophy. This is now somewhere I'm really now actively balancing. And okay, that's a different place. I'm not going to close my eyes, right? So it changes where the rest and exercise components of a yoga class in general may be. And then you think about yoga philosophy. We've talked a lot about the movement, and that's how people know yoga best. But, there are the 8 limbs of yoga. The important thing to remember about why yoga has lasted is really that yoga philosophy, because my lunge is not any different than the lunge in the gym with the weights. A lunge is a lunge. What makes my lunge different is I am overlaying it with that yoga philosophy and the breath work and the meditation, which we still do in the water yoga class, but we have to make that slightly less. And the reason I say that is we've talked about the difficulties of the pool environment, how it's loud, it's potentially cold, and best practice in aquatics is only 45 minutes. So I don't necessarily have people as long as in a land-based class as well. So those are some big, broad differences, small little differences, some of the ones that I get the common questions about.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's something that I'm sure anybody that sees Aqua Yoga, they just see that word and they're like, wait, how does that happen? Because they just picture, they have their typical image in their head of what yoga is, and then adding in the water that I like to joke about, nobody wants to drown. And that's breaking it down, using different tools. But I think the piece that I kind of want to ask you about now is the mindfulness. You touched on it within the pool and the length of it. And with mindfulness, I feel like that's one of the bigger things that we've kind of seen over the last 3 years is mindfulness within practice. My question is actually more for you. How has the mindfulness aspect of Aqua Yoga been important in your life?
That's a great question. I live with multiple kinds of arthritis, and I'm very open with my diagnosis because within the yoga community, there's a lot of perceptions. And living with these kinds of arthritis, you frequently have some mental health aspects that go with that. It's hard to live with chronic diseases that you have to take medication for and see a ton of doctors for. And my diagnosis list is, even my doctors are like, wow, how can you have this much wrong with you? And that can lead to just those diseases themselves. Having all these problems can lead to things like depression and anxiety, as well as the diseases themselves often cause that. One of the diseases I live with is lupus. It literally causes your brain to get inflamed. There are days where it's like, man, I feel just dumber than a box of rocks. And that is my disease process firing up. So the mindfulness that I get out of being in the pool really helps me manage those disease processes much more effectively. It helps me keep things in perspective from that aspect. And then if you think about, okay, well, I've mentioned I'm getting older. I've mentioned this a couple of times. Well, to me, that mindfulness practice really helps keep that in perspective. Any day that elbows aren't knocking wood is a good day, right? And it really, that Buddhist principle of meditating on death, it's like there's no rehearsal here. You know, our lives are the only chance we get. And so if you can show up mindfully and recognize that, and what a blessing. Before we came on, we were talking about how I got to get in my pool this weekend. Well, it's February and to get in the pool in February is just a blessing, right? That is wonderful. So these mindfulness practices within yoga help me stay on track with my health. They help me age better. They give me perspective for, you know, keeping going in life. It's, you know, when we're recording this, it's a very difficult geopolitical time and we're still in COVID. We're all facing a lot of stress. So it really helps with those everyday life stressors as well.
Yeah, 100% agree. Why I asked the question. And it's one of those things that I feel a lot of populations, not just people that are into yoga, different types of populations can really benefit from the mindfulness, the practice. And I appreciate your honest answer. So I'm going to segue it again to 2 questions here, but We're going to kick it off with bringing them back to instructors and teaching water aerobics, especially at home, because this is the piece that I haven't fully been able to picture in my head. With fit pros wanting to work with clients virtually and trying to work with clients, what is your tip for wanting to take a class at home and in the free time? How can someone participate in a class in their own pool at home and at the free time? What are some tips that you can share with them?
Yeah. So if you're wanting to do this in your own pool, we've already talked a lot about the tech barriers. So something as simple as paper and pencil will serve you at the pool, right? And you can take some notes. So if you have access to, at your laptop, some videos, some recordings that you've already had access to in some capacity, make yourself some notes. If you have a laminator in your office, laminating them is great because that makes them waterproof. But if you don't, you know, they sell those sheets at the office supply store. You pop your piece of paper in that sheet, you take it out to the pool. So that would, to me, is the least barrier how to make it happen. If you are willing to either spend a little money or have a little bit of tech at the pool, there's lots of audio resources you can get on your phone. I sell them, other aquatics fitness pros sell them. And then it's something that you can play, that you can play on the pool deck and then practice along with. And because it's just audio, it doesn't matter where in the pool you are. And these days, the Bluetooth speakers, you know, you Bluetooth it to your waterproof speaker, you can have it right next to you in the water because the speaker's floating right there. So you get rid of that sound barrier. And then the third one would be, okay, so if you're going to work on the screen, when I work with people on the screen, the biggest barrier I have found is actually most of my clients don't have internet access at the pool. And so they take their laptop or their phone or however they're trying to communicate with me out there, and the internet gets really spotty because I am potentially in my pool in my backyard, but I have high-speed internet access in my pool because this is what I do. So that, but it to me is the biggest barrier is if you're going to work with people in their pools, it's like, okay, how can we get the internet working so that they can be out there, they can experience it. And then there's that safety aspect of, okay, well, if you're going to use your phone, maybe put it on a tripod. If you're going to use your tablet, can it be on a chair? Get it where we can see each other, but not, you know, right in the pool. And then of course, I should say this, you're assuming that on their end, they're applying all safety rules about being in the pool, you know, never swim alone, all those good things. Always make sure that happens before you even get to the screen. And that really helps. Yeah,
that's good. I like that one about the Bluetooth speaker. I didn't process that one before. I never even thought about that. And it's so true. There's a whole bunch.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the technology has just come so far. For under $100, you can get a really heavy duty. So the trick is you want the IPX7, I believe. Check me on that, but it should be the one that's fully waterproof. The IPX6 are the ones that I believe you can put in your shower. Those aren't as good at the pool. You want the most waterproof rating, the IPX7. And yeah, you can float them with you. They're awesome. Put them in your, you know, on weekend pool party, put them in your floaty, just take them with you. Yeah,
that's great. Great tips right there. Really great tips for connecting the client to the instructor and working through those, because I'm sure there are instructors, water aerobics instructors that have thought about it. Oh, I'd like to do more virtual trainings, but I don't know how to get past through some of these barriers. How do I work with my client that has a pool? And so those things are very useful for them. Now, we're going to go into a pitch here. We'll call it a pitch to Fit Pros, because this is something that we talked about before we pressed the record button. And it's something that I talk with, I feel like, with every water aerobics instructor, because I just think it's such a great thing to add for Fit Pros is some type of water aerobics education into their business. What is your pitch to Fit Pros out there? Maybe they work at a gym that has a pool, or maybe they have access to a pool, that about adding water aerobics into their business and how it can be a great addition for their clients.
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is, for most of us as fitness pros, we're self-employed and we're always looking to find more ways to increase our income, right? And generally that is, can you reach more people? So by moving into aquatic exercise, whatever capacity that's going to look like for you, you're going to reach new audiences, right? That allows you to increase your income. It allows you to serve new and different people. And within that, it's important that we have our niche and, we stay in our niche. But even within our niche, we can always broaden, right? So if you might have an age group, you might have an exercise style, you might have an equipment focus, whatever your niche is, that doesn't mean you can't take that niche into the water and reach some new people there. Yeah. So it would be, the first one is you're going to work with more people and therefore make more money. So that's important. And then the other thing is, even if you're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to work with the people I already have, you can serve them in new ways, right? Everybody you're working with has a goal, and you are going to be most effective, more profitable, have the best career if you can help those people reach their goals fastest, bestest, quickest, most efficiently, whatever, that's going to be. And so moving into aquatic exercise, you just have more tools to work with in your toolbox, right? And so that if somebody comes to you and they have a specific need, maybe that need is best met in the water. And so now being able to have those skills, you can short circuit that process for them, get them what they need. And that person isn't going to go look for somebody else. Yeah,
I dig it. I really dig it. And it's a great response. Great. So many reasons. And I feel like the business aspect of it is so important. And so I really liked that you touched on those. And as we get now to our podcast closing tips, these are always my favorite things, just because of each instructor has different experiences, different things that they've gone through, and even the type of clients they work with on a day-to-day, all of these things shape our outlook and looking towards the future, the fitness industry, all these types of things. So with this question, it's a great way to get some more insight from Christa here. So Christa, what are 2 closing thoughts on the future of the fitness industry that you would like to share?
I think COVID, while it's really pressurized this move online and made it all really emergency and quick for all of us, that fitness is going to continue to move into the digital world. You think about things like all the new apps coming out, the Peloton, right? You're in your own living room, but you're engaged with people riding their bikes all over the world. The fitness industry, like every other aspect of our lives, is going to continue to become more and more digital. And so we're, as an industry, just learning how to adapt and live with this new reality. So there's a lot of opportunities there. So just keep it in mind that it's something we're going to have to live with, and we're all doing the best we can at it. So if you're feeling down about that aspect today, it is kind of here to stay. It won't always look like this, but it's kind of here to stay. So I think that's very much a truism. And then as well, we're both in the States, and the demographics are really moving in the direction of there's going to be a lot of older active adults looking for exercise. So it's a horrible joke for somebody who is in aquatic exercise, but that silver tsunami that you hear all the time, it's like, yes, these people, they're going to want exercise. They want to age well, right? And there is very much a stereotype that aquatic exercise is only for seniors anyway, which I will be the first person to say, no, that's not true. However, even if you are going to have that stereotype, the math is in your favor, right? Yeah. There's a lot of older adults going to start coming to more and more fitness classes. And so whatever way you want to serve them, whether that's land-based modalities, something in the pool, just be aware that we're all human. we all want to move our bodies. We all want to enjoy our time, and that's at any age. So if you can train yourself to serve an older population, again, you'll just make more money and be more of service to more people, because that's what the demographics are moving for us.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that last one, and I have not heard that joke before. And
you haven't heard the silver tsunami? Oh, okay.
That's a new one.
I don't know if I got it from AARP or where it came from, but yeah, it's a good one for Aqua Year.
Yeah, it's a good one. The piece that I will briefly touch on there is I feel like there is a trend more towards moving better. Hopefully it continues on that way. I feel like it's small, but it's moving away from I need to look better. And especially when we start to train older populations, that it is important that we focus more on moving better for completing activities, being more active, all these types of things, instead of I want to look better in this outfit, or I want my biceps to look bigger. Probably not as important, but this movement towards more movement is a positive thing, that we have more education out there in this realm, and that will continue. So hopefully now it trickles down to the clients even more. So all great things in I would say we have a very bright future with the fitness industry and just continuing on that path. So Christa, thank you for being a guest. Before we sign off here, I want to make sure that you give a shout out to your social media links, website, all that kind of stuff.
My website is ChristaFairbrother.com, and it's just my name. So it's Christa, Christa, and my last name's Fairbrother, F as in Frank, AIR brother, like it sounds. And I've got lots of water yoga videos up, since we spent a lot of time talking about that today. If you want to peruse the videos that I put out about that, there's lots in there for you. Yeah.
Check those out for sure. We will put a link in the description to both of those, her Instagram page and her website. Check out the content she makes, and she goes over all the things she went over. You could see how it plays out and hopefully give other instructors an idea of the content that you can create and the possibilities out there. So definitely check those out in the description. Christa, again, thank you for being my guest and coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.